All right, Dan, the days of staying up late are over. The Red Sox are back here on the East Coast. A 10-game homestand at Fenway Park. First up against the Baltimore Orioles. And, you look at the road trip, obviously they lose Trevor Story. That's huge for this Red Sox team. But results-wise, 7-3, they outscore opponents by 26 runs, and they have the pitching staff ERA-wise in Major League Baseball. Pretty good start for this team.
Yeah, and I think if you went up, before the season started and went to the odds makers in Vegas and said, what kind of odds could I get on a 7-3 start for this Red Sox team on a 10-game West Coast road swing, which they've never played well, really, in any of these West Coast swings, even when they were winning World Series, Joe, I think you'd be like, man, you'd get high odds, huge odds. And then for them to lose Trevor Story and rebound the way that they did in closing it out with a lot of offense, there were good signs. There were a lot of good signs. People barking at you on social media whenever you say, hey, this is positive, this is nice. With who did they play? Seattle, the Angels, Oakland, three of the worst teams in baseball. Seattle's projected to be very good, but, we'll see. So now they get into the heart of their schedule with the Orioles, a team that's expected to be a World Series contender. So now we'll see. But for anybody out there to complain 1/16 into your schedule, to have a 7-3 record, it was a nice gift, an early spring gift from the baseball gods.
Yeah, you can only play the teams that are on the schedule. And you and I talked about it last week about hoping that this team would come back to Fenway at the very least 6-4. Well, they're 7-3, and the 3 games they lost on the road trip were very winnable games, all games in which they lost by just 1 run. So they're in a great spot right now, but obviously the Trevor Story loss is huge for this Red Sox team, and we'll see how they'll rebound. Now they're back at home, and Dan, Alex Cora with some interesting comments about the way this team has played at home when he was on the road trip. He just spoke about this yesterday, and you spoke about this on Sunday, and one thing he said was about last year, we didn't run the bases well at Fenway, we didn't play good defense at Fenway, we didn't pitch at Fenway, we didn't hit well either. So last year they go 39-42 at Fenway Park. 3 of the last 5 seasons, they've been sub 500 at home. If this team wants to compete for a playoff spot, they have to change the way they play at home, and hopefully that starts with this homestand.
Yeah, absolutely. Fenway Park has always been a good home field advantage, and if you want to contend for a playoff spot and be a playoff contender, you have to play well at home. He also said the atmosphere wasn't great last year, but I think that goes hand in hand with winning, right? I think when you play good baseball and you give the good product, the fans will be into it and they'll get into it, especially as this season goes along. So that's the first priority, to play each and every game, take your time each out, play it well defensively. A big loss of Story. Now you guys have to step up, whether it's from inside or outside, but they need to do all the little things, and they have to keep pitching. What we've seen so far, starting pitching has been brilliant. The bullpen has been brilliant. They've got to keep doing all those little things, and the rest will take care of itself. So yes, winning at home has to be a priority, starting with game 1 against the Orioles.
And, of course, this home opener, it's going to be a reunion of the 2004 team, the 20th anniversary of the 2004 World Series championship that broke the 86-year curse. You had a chance to catch up with some of these guys. What's it been like to catch up with the players from that 2004 team?
It absolutely felt like a high school reunion, Joe. It was like it was the 20th reunion of this team, and just being at the first event that they had, guys looking at each other and saying, is that you? I haven't seen this guy in 20 years. Is that you? And then once they realize that, there's hugs all around for everybody. And then people just kind of, it feels like you never left. Everyone going back to reminiscing about the teams, the players, Manny being Manny, the fans, talking to a bunch of the players, remembering the parade, something that they'll never forget in their lifetime, just the chaos and the thousands and thousands of people that were lining the streets in the Charles River. It's cool. And I go back to, I think that they had no idea what they were doing when they did it. And a lot of the players said they didn't realize it until the whole "now I can die in peace," where people going to the cemeteries and putting jerseys on their parents' graves just because they didn't get a chance to see this Red Sox team finally win the World Series. When they saw that and heard the stories and saw the people at the parade, they realized, wow, this group of idiots just did something special. So it's nothing but smiles to see this reunion come about.
And it's hard to believe it's been 20 years since that 2004 World Series championship. Of course, The team is going to be honoring Tim and Stacey Wakefield in a pregame ceremony before the game. And it's going to be an emotional day with the players from that team back, a part of that ceremony with all the fans there as well. And obviously two people that were so a part of this Boston community.
Yeah, and I think what helped a little bit was they had a memorial at Fenway Park not long after Tim passed. And a lot of the players from this 2004 team were there for it. And they all saw each other. There were a lot of tears. There were a lot of Wakefield stories. They all heard from Stacey Wakefield, who spoke, and they saw Tim's children. I think a lot of that helped these players. So I think it'll be more a celebration of what they accomplished, but also good times and good thoughts about Tim Wakefield. And I think it's almost like when you go to your high school reunion and so-and-so's not there, you're like, he just couldn't make it to this one or what have you. So I think that Tim and Stacey will be there in spirit. And I think Tim and Stacey would want them to celebrate what they accomplished together as a team. So I think that kind of helps. And the thoughts of Larry Lucchino will be there too, for all that Larry did. He's the one who coined the phrase "evil empire." A lot of guys don't forget that, and they say Larry did a lot of the things behind the scenes to make sure that we were comfortable as players, and they appreciated that. So I think it'll be, again, a big celebration, and I think these guys are just, when they get here, they're like, I got to go back to Boston for this, and they come for card signings and autograph things like that. But when they're together, the stories are going to swap. And it's almost like they don't forget each other. They're ragging on each other. They're having a good time. So I think it's a good boost of energy for everybody, and especially the game of baseball. And I hope it's a good boost for this current team to realize how much this group is adored when they see that on Tuesday in the home opener. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day at Fenway Park. And this young team, this Red Sox team, off to a great start. Hopefully they can continue that here in this 10-game homestand at Fenway Park. Dan, thanks for the time as always.
Always, Joe. Always a pleasure.